Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I am your host, Karina Calhoun. I am your expert life strategist, and I'm super excited, you all. We have yet again another amazing episode today, and we've got Jacqueline on the line. She's here with us, and I'm super excited. Super excited, you all. So, without further ado, Jacqueline, tell us first of all, how are you and where in the world are you?
I'm doing amazing, and thank you for having me today. I love your energy. Feel
Thank
good over here.
you. Thank
So I'm
you.
actually based in San Diego, California. However, I'm a Canadian living in California. So my company started in Canada. And yeah, I'm in sunny California now, enjoying the winters out here that are much different than Toronto.
I can imagine, I can imagine. So what took you from Canada to California?
My husband.
I love it.
Yes, he's from here, he's from LA, so it was between the 2. I fought a little for Toronto, and yeah, the weather here, I mean, you're just in a good mood. It makes a
Yeah.
difference.
It's amazing that you say that because I can wake up in the mornings and not know what the weather's like because I don't check the weather throughout the week in advance or anything like that, but I can wake up and just like not be in a bad mood, but just kind of like dreary, just kind of like, I think I kind of want to lounge today. And then I realized midway through after I opened up the blinds that, it's been drizzling outside. So, yeah, I love good weather. I love sun shining. So, absolutely, I completely understand that. So, Jacqueline, tell us how you are loving on the world around you these days.
The biggest thing is I am a co-founder of a high performance coaching company, so something that we always try to just share every day is a little bit of light, no matter who you're talking to, always leaving that, like, positive footprint, just somebody better off than when you first talk to them. And that's something that I'm really focused on. So whether that's a podcast with you or any conversation with someone, it's just, how can we slow down and really connect with the people around us and just feel good about it? It's so simple, but it's a very small component of what we do that makes a big difference at the end of the day.
The simplicity of it all is really, I think, where we kind of probably need to get back to because technology has advanced so much, but the simplicity of it all. And I love how you said, just kind of really getting someone to a better place than when you found them. And that should be all of us who are service providers. So listen up, folks. Your service provider, you should be, your goal, part of your goal should be, I want to get this person a little bit better than where I found them initially. So tell us, Jacqueline, how you're doing that. What specifically are you doing? When I hear performance coaching, back in the day, that probably would have intimidated me back when I was in corporate America. But now I'm like, yeah, bring it on. So, for those that don't know, tell us about high performance coaching. What does that entail?
I appreciate that question too, because I've had a few people be like, "Do you help athletes? Like, what does that mean?" So I'm actually partnered up with my dad. We're a father-daughter team, and he's based in Canada, and we've come together. High performance to us is holistically encompassing your life and your business. So, yes, a lot of people come to us for income growth. A ton of our clients are business owners, especially service-based business owners and entrepreneurs. So it's always going to be that, we want that growth, we want to see that outcome, but we also don't want to be burnt out in the process. We do want to have a life. And for a lot of people, that means, how do I build a business and also prioritize my time? So we have different programs. I specifically specialize in the life coaching aspect. So I come from the corporate space. I deeply was very anxious leaving that space. I was suffering a lot just with panic
Mhm.
attacks and navigating, like, not knowing what you want to do next. And through that, it all ended up working out, because now I'm in a space where I'm able to help other women, especially, figure that path out for themselves, because it doesn't have to be scary, and we can
Yeah.
fail forward and we can learn. And it's not all about being perfect. It's just about taking
So a
new
couple of
steps.
Absolutely. A couple of things that I hear, just, I am
Mhm.
like in love. This is it. This is the conversation of conversations for me. So, being having been in corporate and understanding the panic attacks, I was rushed to the hospital where they said, "Well, you've had a mini stroke." I was in high level leadership,
Mhm.
did not have that balance. And, I'm very cautious in saying work life balance because I believe it's not just a work life balance, it's just
Mhm.
life balance, period.
Mhm.
Because we're experiencing so many different things while we're living. And so just really keying in on failing forward within that space because there are people that are listening here today that are still in corporate, whether it's corporate America or corporate some. We just found out we're in 10 countries. So we're not
So
just,
cool.
so excited. So it's not just corporate America, but just corporate,
Mhm.
period.
Mhm.
And so when you have this idea of failing forward, it's like, oh my goodness, do I fail forward and I fall on my face? And what happens? Do I get up with egg on my face? I'm just going to put my 2 cents in, and then I want you to speak to this. But
Mhm.
my 2 cents is no, you don't get up with egg on your face. You get up strengthened
Mhm.
because now you know what tripped you up before. And you also know you have a plan and a strategy of how to get up. So speak to that.
Yes, I love
I
that.
love it.
I think you worded it really well, and my experience on failure now as an entrepreneur, having my own business, I love the opportunity to fail forward. Like, it sucks, there's hard days, don't get me wrong, but, like, every failure, I just know it's part of the process and it's a huge lesson, and I found in the corporate space, I wish I had that mentality then because I was so scared to fail that I would not take opportunities. Like, I would literally hide who I was. I would shrink my voice, like, just turn down the volume on my personality because I wanted to try to make everything as perfect as possible. So, if I could say anything to anyone listening today, it's just basically like you said too, take it as a learning and keep going because it's really only failure if you stop.
Yeah, yeah. Jacqueline, you and I could have this conversation. When I say this, I kid you not, literally for hours, because there was just so much that I experienced, especially being a
Mhm.
Black woman in corporate America, where I was the only Black woman in this high level position. There was one other woman. So I was surrounded by all men, all white men, and then one woman. And so I had that pressure on that side, but then I had the pressure on the other side of, well, who do you think you are? You know?
Mm.
I mean, it's this whole, oh my goodness, just the dynamic of this conversation is just so juicy. But we're gonna keep on because I do believe that you and I could come back and have this other amazing conversation about this, but I want to continue on with this. So, folks, just know that Jacqueline
We'll
and I
come
will
back.
probably be back together again.
Let's do
So,
it.
yes. So, the other thing you talked about, the burnout,
Mhm.
especially as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
One of the things that I heard very, very early on was that you have to work from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and there's no stop in between. And that is one of the biggest lies I've ever heard as it relates to entrepreneurship. I want
Mhm.
you to address that because I think people need to hear this.
I just talked about this just before we got on this call, I'm not kidding. So
Wow.
it's yeah, it's interesting, and I did that. I hit that burnout. So we've been running
Hmm.
since 2019, and I would say the biggest identity shift that I had to work through was going from corporate, so I was in advertising specifically, where you would be billing your client based on 15-minute intervals. So my brain was like, okay, 9 to 5 first off doesn't exist because I'm always working earlier and later than that. And you had to be so productive with your time. So away from that, when it's your own business, I had to work through breaking down those barriers of not thinking
Mhm.
like that,
Mm,
because you can't, and you will burn out and your body physically reacts. Like if you don't stop it, it will shut you down until you take a break, which I had to go through to learn. And I think with as an entrepreneur too, I had all of a sudden all of these creative aspects that I personally didn't hold in my previous role. And
mhm,
you can't put that one on a timer. I
mhm,
find like
mhm.
I gotta have free space, like thinking time.
Yes.
I literally schedule thinking time and I don't have a to-do list, just to give yourself space to be. And
Yeah.
maybe it's reflect, maybe it's to brainstorm, but there is no agenda. And sometimes there's really late nights because I'm creative at 9 o'clock p.m. when it starts and I roll
Mhm,
with it. But I'm also, if I wake up and I'm not in this space, and I don't, and obviously you show up on calls and whatnot, but
mhm.
it's giving yourself that flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you said breaking down those barriers because leaving corporate and going into entrepreneurship, you have to be willing to address those barriers with authenticity, with truthfulness, and say, this is actually a barrier, even though I may have been doing this for
Mhm.
the last 15 years and it seemingly worked there. But over here, let me look at it a different way because I love how you said, perfect example of what you just said. When you wake up and maybe you don't want to really do too much. Of course you show up for calls and things like that, but kind of pull back, take care of you, love on yourself, because that's what's going to be key. And then maybe you get a start later in the day, not a late start, but a start later in the
Mhm.
day. And how you frame those words can kind of trigger those things. We have to be mindful of that.
Mhm.
But then, like you said, maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, creativity does start. Everything that you said, I've been there. And yes, I, worked sun up to sundown and everything in between
Yeah.
because I was told you've got to do this in order to
Mhm.
be successful. But when you sit down and you identify what your success is, also identify what your idea of failure is.
Mm.
It may not necessarily be what the next person identifies.
That's an interesting component. Tell me more about that piece.
I just, it was just something that I thought about several years ago. I'm like, huh, if I list out what I consider failure,
Mm.
let's see, making $1 million in a 12-month period as a goal, but then only making
Mm.
60,000. That's not failure to me if a part of my goal also was to help 100 women, but I helped 150,
Mhm.
or I even just helped 100. So you have to be able to identify what failure is for you because it may not be what someone else says is failure.
That's a powerful one, and I think it makes you think, number 1, and
Yeah.
then get aware, because we all have little failures all the time, by the way.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it helps you see the bigger picture. Like,
Yeah.
maybe this is a little bit, it isn't the exact outcome I wanted, but what am I learning from it? How am I
Mhm.
going to continue? And then what's the big picture? What's the point of it anyways? Why am I doing
Right.
this? And it's to
Right.
help people, like you just said. That was, like, really powerful.
Yeah. And that's just one of the things that I've thought about over the years. And so I think that's what helps me to identify with my own authenticity and then to be that ambition bully.
Mhm.
So talk to us about really sitting down with you. What does it look like first off, tell us how we can get in touch with you because that absolutely is key right now. We
Of
need to be
course.
screaming this from the mountaintop. How do we get in touch with you? And then once we get in touch with you, what can we expect?
So you can reach us at bedohavemovement.com. That's our website with all the details. There's a ton on there for the business side. I do help with that life side as well. So all my contact detail is on there. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the channels I'm on as well at Be Do Have Movement. And sessions with me personally. So we have a membership option that's group coaching and a few other things like that. But private coaching with me is very unique because I base it on the client and where they're at. So it's
Yes.
usually a roadmap or framework, and it starts at 3 months to 6 months and then some from there. And it's a lot about figuring out clarity on what you want in terms of building out the life of your dreams in the areas that are important to you. And then there's a lot of like working through and releasing the crap that we hold on to
Mhm.
that's blocking us
Mhm.
from getting that success that we want, and really releasing that and reframing that, and then building habits that support the new direction and the life that you want to
I love it. I absolutely love it because at the end of the day, the reframing
have.
is what's going to be so significant in our journey. So significant. So I just want to encourage you all, get in touch with Jacklyn because she has my heart, you all. I can tell you that already. Out the gate, she has my heart. And we have not had a conversation. Just for those that don't know, I do not do pre-show interviews because I love the authenticity of the call.
That's a great approach, actually.
Yes.
There's
Yes,
no practice. It's just,
no
it is what it is.
practice.
Let's go.
It is what it is, and there's very little editing that my assistant does. Very little editing.
Interesting. I like that approach.
Yes. And because I believe when we are speaking from our passion and our
Hmm.
purpose, two different things, when we're speaking from those two, everything within us begins to shine. And so it's
100%.
key. And so I just want to encourage you all, get in touch with Jacqueline. And I'm smiling and I'm happy because, again, I know that we're going to be working together. You've just acquired a new sister, just so that you know.
Yes. I love it.
I love it too. So, Jacqueline, any last words of wisdom for those that are listening?
I think just remember, we talked about reframing a little bit today, but wherever you're at in your journey, you can start reframing now too. And it just
Mhm.
starts with even a few minutes a day of just where am I at? Where do I want to be? And how can I make some type of aligned action towards that direction? It's a small moment in your day that's really going to help you take that empowered action.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, folks, we've had on the show Jacqueline and my new sister, and we're going to be talking to you all again in the future because this is going to be a conversation that I just, it's imperative that we continue this conversation. We want to make sure more people understand the idea and concept of living in your authentic life, really and truly, not based on anyone. And I want to say this. I know we said we were going to close, but I want to say this is my show, so I can do this, right? I love the fact that you said when we get in touch with you, it's not going to be cookie cutter.
Because it can't be,
It cannot.
especially the one-on-one space. And that's really where you get that opportunity to dig deeper because it is more of a safe space to feel vulnerable, right? It's a special space. So it's no one's path is the exact same. So it's based on what you need in real time.
And I want to say this, and then I'll close, I promise. But what Jacqueline just said, no one's path is the same. Please become comfortable. Those that are listening, become comfortable. And Jacqueline, I want you to speak to this, and then I promise will end. But you have to become comfortable with being your own blueprint.
Hmm.
Have to be. You have to be.
And it's practice. Like, look
Yes.
at every single day. Like, this is just a new day. I get to practice my best self and being that person today.
And so if it's practice, then you're going to fail.
And that's a good thing.
That's a
Like,
great thing
we can't stop it. It's going to happen anyways. So why
because you're
make it perfect?
practicing. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
I love you. I love you. I
We're
love
going to
you.
have daily chats every day now.
I know, I know, I know.
I'll
Hey,
stop
Jacqueline, I need a
talking.
session right quick. But when you find someone that you can connect with like that, that speaks truth, that speaks to your very soul, then you've got to connect. You have to. So hopefully those of you that are listening, you've connected with Jacqueline. Get in touch with her. You will not regret it. I know you won't. So, folks, this has been another great episode of Go Be Great with Coach Karina. I am your host, Coach Karina Calhoun, and I will see you all on the flip side. Bye, everyone.